Scott Bessent dismantled Bernie's argument in seconds.
Please justify that and tell me about that.
Well, Senator, I don't know, but the Democrats had the trifecta, and there was no tax increase or wealth tax on billionaires.
During a Senate hearing, the congressman put on a show, raging over, quote, unfair tax breaks and slamming Medicaid work requirements. But Scott called the bluff and fired right back.
You all had a scheduled expiration of Obamacare subsidies, and you did not extend that when you were in charge.
That's why today we're covering it all, because we're not here to follow parties blindly. We're here for common sense. So, if you're an independent thinker, hit that subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
Help me out here. My understanding is the Trump administration has, I think, 13 billionaires in office right now, leading government agencies. Is that about right, do you think?
I have no idea, Senator.
I think that's what the number is. Do you think it's a coincidence, given the large number of billionaires in the Trump administration, that this particular piece of legislation would provide $235 billion in tax breaks to the top 0.2% by expanding the exemptions in the estate tax?
Senator, I will tell you that when the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed, my tax rate went up.
Well, I don't know your exact situation, but I can tell you. Tell me about how many people do you think are in the top 0.2%?
Sorry?
Number of people in the top 0.2% who would benefit from this particular $235 billion tax break.
Well, I know the top 10% is right. now paying 7%.
That's not the question.
For context, Bernie was pressing the Treasury Secretary over the tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill. But instead of sticking to a focused line of questioning, he scattered all over the place. He started by asking how many billionaires were sitting in the cabinet. Then he jumped to the state tax exemption increases, arguing it would mainly benefit the ultra-wealthy. A moment later, he was ranting about the top 0.2% of the top 1%. It honestly felt like he was trying to cram every class warfare talking point into one breath. And yes, there have been an increase in the estate tax exemption, which will become $15 million per individual or $30 million per married couple. Plus, it'll be adjusted to inflation on an annual basis. But Bernie wasn't happy with that.
My question is, why do you think at a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when people like yourself economically have never ever had it so good, why do you think it's a good idea to cut Medicaid for low-income and working-class people by $700 billion to give $235 billion in tax breaks to the very, very, very richest people in this country, perhaps a few hundred families? Please justify that and tell me about that.
Well, Senator, I don't know, but the Democrats had the trifecta, and there was no tax increase or wealth tax on billionaires. You choose.
I'm not talking about a tax.
You chose not to do that.
Mr. Bessent, I am not talking about a wealth tax. Explain. A few hundred of the wealthiest families in this country, $235 billion tax break. Explain to the American people why you think that's a great idea.
I think that this will increase small businesses substantially. That most small businesses, they are...
Has zero to do, come on, you're smarter than that. This is the top 0.2%. This is not a mom and pop store. These are multi-billionaires, and the savings go to their kids after they pass away.
Hate to break it to you, Bernie, but that's how inheritance works. And let's clear something up. The increase in estate tax exemptions isn't just some handout to billionaires, as he keeps implying. The ultra-rich are already far beyond the $15 million mark. What this actually does is help small businesses, the ones that make up 99.9% of all U.S. businesses. You see, a lot of these companies might be worth millions on paper, but they might struggle with cash flow. In fact, studies show that 82% of business failures are due to poor cash management. So imagine inheriting a business full of valuable but illiquid assets. You could be forced to sell a chunk of it or take on debt just to pay estate taxes. Raising the exemption helps prevent that kind of unnecessary financial strain and keeps things running. And when Bernie realized he couldn't pin this one at Bessent, he quickly switched to attacking Medicaid work requirements with shaky numbers. And the way Scott handled it is just satisfying to watch. But before we play that, we have a quick message from our partners at Augusta Precious Metals. Do you know what retirement asset grew the most during the first 6 months of President Trump's second term? Spoiler, it wasn't the stock market. From January 21st to July 21st, the Dow Jones barely moved up, less than 1%, but gold and silver grew by a whopping 25% in the same time frame. 25% in 6 months. That's not just impressive. It's how strategic assets perform in times of uncertainty. Our friends at Augusta Precious Metals specialize in helping Americans move wealth and retirement into self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals like silver and gold. They are consistently scored as the most trusted gold IRA company by major financial publications, and they enjoy an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So if you have over $100,000 in your current IRA, 401k, or other retirement accounts, now's the time to safeguard your future. Visit mentorforgold.com, that's mentorforgold.com, to learn how Augusta Precious Metals can become your lifelong self-directed IRA partner. Now, back to the video.
Let me ask you another question. If you guys want to cut $1 trillion in Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, the estimate from CBO, I believe, is that over 15 million people lose their health insurance. Yale University and the University of Pennsylvania estimated that when you throw that many low-income and working-class people off of health care, some 50,000 people a year will die. Tell me why you think it's a good idea to give tax breaks to billionaires and allow 50,000 low-income and working-class people to die unnecessarily?
Senator, first of all, that's overstated by 5.1 million. That is not attributed to this bill. It is simply
It's a combination. That's true.
No. You all had a scheduled expiration of Obamacare subsidies, and you did not extend that when you were in charge. 5.1 million, 1.4 million illegal aliens on Medicaid.
All right,
and there are work requirements. And our goal is to get more money to children and mothers.
Now, what's happening with Medicaid is pretty straightforward. It's being shifted more into the hands of the states. And when it comes to the CBO numbers Bernie shared, a UC Berkeley health policy professor said, quote, "This type of estimate requires many assumptions. So I would not be surprised if the actual effect was 25% larger or smaller. Still, there's no denying it's the biggest cut Medicaid has seen in a long time." About the work requirements. The big, beautiful bill introduced them for those aged between 18 to 64, and they include 80 hours of work per month, participation in a job program like training, being enrolled in an educational program, or community services. These rules come with clear exemptions for those who qualify. Yet, Bernie chose to misinterpret them, saying this.
Do you know how many people, and I was surprised to hear this, I don't know if you know it or not, how many people lose their jobs every year, quit, get fired or whatever? Do you have any idea?
Well, there's something called the quits rate, and so when the job market is strong, more people quit.
But yeah, I was surprised that I just researched this. I don't know. Do you happen to know?
I don't know the number.
I was surprised. Would it be shocking to you? It was to me. 20 million people leave their jobs a year. Doesn't shock you, right? It's a big labor force, right?
Yep.
So some guy leaves the job, maybe they move, maybe something happens in their lives, right? We have a lot of transition in the labor market, correct?
Maybe they get a better job.
Right, exactly. Maybe they do. Or maybe they have to stay home, their wife gets sick, whatever, we don't know. But 20 million people lose their jobs in a given year, leave their jobs in a given year. Are those people lazy? What happens when I leave my job and maybe I have to move to another state to take care of my ill mother? And I desperately need Medicaid. Am I too lazy now to be able to get Medicaid?
I think that's a mischaracterization of the work requirement.
Really? Well, I'm not quite so sure.
Yes, they really are. Caregivers are listed as exempt from these work requirements. What we really saw in this hearing is Bernie doing what he does best. Ramping up the outrage, throwing out shaky stats, and twisting the facts to fit his political agenda. He loves to rail against the wealthy, while being a millionaire himself, and conveniently forgets that not long ago, Democrats held full control. Yet, they did nothing about the very issues he now won't stop shouting about. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, keep thinking.